Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it's your boy Sir Wilkins of the Jobbertears podcast, and we are on a very special episode of Talk to Us. We got two special guests in the building. First things first, we have Joakim Morales, the owner of Battle Club Pro, who has a show this weekend on Saturday. Matter of fact, it's not even one show. It is two shows on one day. Get your tickets now. The link will be in the bio. And we got a superstar in the building. I'm sorry, not a superstar. We got a mega star in the building who has been dominating the Northeast as of late on the wrestling scene, who has been on TV, who has been on AEW's YouTube page, dominating and doing dope things. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, one half of the Seastars, Delmi. How are you? How are you, Joakim? How are you, Delmi?
I was waiting for you to announce who the superstar was, and then I realized it was me. So thank you for that. I'm doing great. Just chilling, vibing, hanging around.
Hanging around. It's good to hear. It's good to hear. So let's just start it off like we usually start anything. How the hell did you get into wrestling? That's just a basic question. Yeah. How did it start?
I was always a wrestling fan growing up. I actually didn't think that I'd be a wrestler since I was a girl. Watching it growing up, I kind of noticed, not exactly in terms of like how someone who's a smarter fan would, but there was something that I saw was different with the way the women were in the ring versus the men. And I couldn't put my finger on it, but I knew I wanted to wrestle like my heroes, and not seeing someone be able to do that, kind of put a damper in my dreams. So I kind of just fell out of it. Couple years back, actually, Ashley had gotten back into watching wrestling, and she was all in for trying it out. So I went down to her the day she was going to try out in the school, and I just signed up right then and there. So we started on the same day.
So you're not going to tell us who Ashley is for people who don't know?
Ashley is my older sister. A lot of people actually don't know that we are, in fact, sisters. We're 7 years apart, which is kind of insane, but yeah, she's my older sister. She basically raised me to be like a boy because she wanted a little brother growing up, and she got me, unfortunately. So she kind of raised me to be a tomboy, and everything that I like is kind of because of her in some way.
Okay, so she has a huge influence on you, basically.
Yeah, huge influence. She basically raised me.
So you mentioned how you wanted to wrestle your heroes.
Kind of like my heroes.
Yeah. So where do you pull the inspiration from? Which one really, who it really inspires, and who are your heroes?
So my heroes are the late Chris Benoit, late Eddie Guerrero. Huge fan of Triple H and Misawa. Right now I've been kind of emulating a lot of Misawa and Triple H in the ring. Triple H, and like the way he kind of puts things into perspective in the ring, and just kind of like his work asset, and like how crazy he goes into training, and like that drive he has. And then just like Misawa, because he's an ass kicker, and like I've never thought of myself that way. But he's someone who, like, his moves, I'm like, wait, no, I can actually do this one. Like, this is something I can physically do. I'm not like a crazy athlete who can do all the flips and stuff, but there's certain things that I can steal from him and stuff like that.
You sure you're not an athlete? I've seen your matches, and you do some athletic ass stuff.
I mean, like the flippy people, you know. I'm definitely not one of those.
Joakim, any questions for her?
Man, I've never been asked to ask a question. Okay. Who is your where did the inspiration for the Seastars come? I know it's a play on sisters, but is the whole like oceanic kind of thing, did that stem from somewhere?
So originally Ashley had like a sea gimmick, and she was like a mermaid. And I had an alien gimmick, and I was like, you know, supposed to be the star, and she was the sea, and then together we were combined. Yeah, the way we said it, we keep it now because we're still from the ocean state. That's like our origin. So we're just sisters from the ocean state. I thought it was cute because when I was younger, I obviously looked up to my older sister. I had like a lisp. Like I sometimes it comes back to when I'm talking, but I had like a really strong lisp. And when I would say sister to her, like I'd be like, "You're my sea star." Like I would just look up at her and she'd be like, "Oh, you're so annoying." Like go away.
Awesome.
Shout out, sis. How did you get over the list? Because I was watching one of your promos earlier today and I didn't hear it at all. Like not one bit.
I think honestly it's kind of sad. I went to school where like it was a really mixed community. So we had a bunch of white people and then we had a bunch of like ethnic kids and like minorities. And I just always remember like if someone who was a minority had to read out loud in class, like you would hear like the white kids snicker, or like people who were like just raised on a different part of town, like they would just like kind of pick on you. And
Yeah.
like if you were a minority, like you just didn't want to read. Like that was a thing growing up. Like you were just like, no, I don't want to read. And then you don't try as hard in school because you're like, well, if I kind of lie and say like, whatever, this isn't cool, then I can get away with it on the fact that I'm being cool versus getting picked on. Like that's something actually that Ashley kind of points out a lot too. She dealt with dyslexia and she was always like getting into trouble into school because she would rather be the bad kid than get made fun of because she couldn't read. And I, seeing that growing up from her, I just always was like, well, I want to prove a point wrong. Like if they're going to laugh at me because of how I sound, well, I'm going to get better and I'm going to be reading twice as good as them. And I'll audition for the plays and I'll get the roles and I'll do this because I just didn't want to get put down like that. And I didn't want someone to put me down for the way that I sounded or who I was. Sorry, that was a lot darker.
No. But the thing is, though, I had a speech impediment growing up as well. That's why I asked. Yeah. So I had a huge stuttering problem, and it was really, really bad to a point that I couldn't get words out half the time.
Yeah.
So they thought I couldn't speak English.
Oh, yes.
So you know what I mean. So they end up putting me in an ESLA class. So I'd have my regular class, and every Tuesday at like third period, they'd take me out the class and put me in an ESLA class.
Yeah.
But the teachers never really paid attention to my stutter and realized it was a stutter, not like I couldn't speak English well. It was just I was stuttering. So they put me in the class, and it was a bunch of kids who couldn't speak English, and I just crushed the class.
Yeah, they did that to Ashley too. They thought, oh, maybe she's not from America originally. So they put her in ESL. My mom had to go to the school and fight that because for 2 weeks she didn't know that she had gotten switched in. She was like, wait a minute, like my daughter's not.
No, yeah, it happened, and I didn't tell my mom about it because I didn't realize what was going on.
Yeah.
I had my regular class, but I had the ESLA class, and they had a separate report card. But because I kept killing it in the grades, I was like, I'm gonna stay here because it makes my grades look better.
You're like, oh, this is easy. I'll be in high school in no time.
I was like, you want me to say cat? Oh, I'm in third grade learning about cat. Let me write this out. So yeah, I definitely understand it when it what you're saying right now with that was like, yo, you want to get better, you want to prove people wrong. But has that translated into the wrestling world too? Because I'm assuming you've had high critics come at you, people tell you that you're not good enough or that you need to do better. Has that same type of mentality happened to you in the wrestling community, in the wrestling world?
Yeah, for sure. I know when I first started, there wasn't that many girls, and I would hear a lot about how like, oh yeah, like everyone tends to quit after a couple months, or like, you know, girls don't really last around in the business. And for that reason, I mean, I should have quit like my first week or like my first year, but I was like, well, I don't want to be the person who quits after 1 month, or I don't want to be the person who quits after 6 months. So out of sheer stubbornness, like I just stayed in it because I liked it so much. And even though I wasn't good at it at first, like I was like, well, if I just hold off a little longer. Like, maybe I'll get better. Like, maybe I'll get better at this part. Maybe I'll get better at like this. And I would see improvement really slowly. But I was like, okay, well, like maybe in 6 months I'll know how to do this finally. So literally out of stubbornness of not wanting to be talked about, of like, oh, she quit, or she was another one who quit, you know, something like that. I didn't want that to be me. I didn't want that to be said about me. Even if I would never see those people again, I was so like determined to have like a good reputation about what people would say about me.
Now, I definitely get that. You mentioned how you should have quit the first week. How did that first bump feel?
So I don't think I actually bumped my first day. But I remember hitting the ropes the first day, like a lot. And that was probably like the worst, because bumping after that, it felt like shit, but it wasn't as bad as running the ropes, because we also did that every practice. So in a way, it was like a combination of everything. I don't know. I know certain bumps hurt the worst, like hip tosses. Even to this day, I like don't like taking hip tosses. If it's practice and they're like, all right, we're gonna run through these bumps, I'm like, why hip tosses? They knock
I
the wind out of
hate
you.
those. I fucking hate those.
You just lose all oxygen. It's just unreal.
For me, the one I hate taking is front bump.
Front bumps, really?
I absolutely hate taking it, because I always like and then if my leg is not up the right way, it's like you hit, you know, whatever.
Oh, yeah, you're a guy. Yeah, that sucks. I'm sorry about that.
It's happened once in class before. And
just
I was
for that,
like,
I'm gonna give you a cutter now. That's gonna be all you're taking is cutters.
The hip bump, I don't mind that too badly. But why do you hate the hip bump, the hip toss bump?
The hip toss, it feels like such a rough bump. Like, people will launch you up and you just come. I don't know why. Like, it just feels so much rougher when you land, which is weird, because I'll take every other bump. Like, I'll take a superplex off the top. It's fine. But it's just another level. I can't control my body as much.
So you've come a long way for somebody that said that they should have quit the first week. What was your first match like? And who was it against, if you remember it?
My first match was pretty much like a fast-paced squash. I had gotten mauled by this woman named Toxis in 3 minutes, and that was about it. That's the way to do it, you know. I like that coming into the business. A lot of my early matches, I just basically got murdered. Like, I just ate everything, and I didn't have like the big I'm a hero coming in storyline where I was like going and getting all these wins. And I kind of like that idea of coming in and you're just, you know, paying your dues every match. You're just getting small reps in, something you're getting this in. And I think it kind of builds character. I don't train now, but if I ever trained a student and like they were like one person I could focus on, I think I would have them literally lose for an entire year just so that way they could focus on what they're doing in the ring, instead of getting it in their head like, hey, I'm winning, because it does change people. Like, I've seen what it's done to some of the other girls who like came up with me, and I'm glad like my trainer had me just like get my ass beat for the first year basically, and like just like to see how tough I was and if I would stick it out.
Can you explain that a little bit more? Because for people who listening, how can you get an ego when something that's predetermined?
I know.
No, but explain that, because it's very interesting that you said that people kind of change when they continuously win.
Yeah, so like you mentioned, it is predetermined. So I got to train over in Japan, and I saw the way they treated like the girls who are new and coming up, like their first matches. These girls are probably next level athletes in comparison to some of the people we have working the indie circuits around nowadays. But they're so humble and they're so nice. And even the topper talent, like the way they treat gaijins coming in, like foreigners, just so humble. Like they'll treat you like you must know what you're talking about. Like you must know what your moves are and like what you're doing in the ring. And I think the reason for that is because for that first year, they're just working on themselves in the ring and what they're doing. They're working on like maybe they get one drop kick in this match, and that's it.
Ooh,
That drop kick better look like $1 million because that's the only thing you're getting.
really? That's
And like,
intense.
if it doesn't look good, like they get told right then and there, hey, your feet on the drop kick, or that hit you threw wasn't strong enough, or like this that you did wasn't good enough. And I think that kind of makes you better because if someone's a writer, like for comic books, they have to hand in like a demo. And this demo is literally one story. Like it's a 1-page story, maybe that has to get approved. So think about it. Like if you can't write a demo, how am I going to expect you to write a comic book? And I just think that's something interesting. Like you need to be good at like the small things that you hit before you can like, you need to learn how to walk before you can run in a way. And focus so much on that in Japan. And I was just like, that's such a like mind-boggling thing to me. Like now, coming back from there, like I've just like taken back so much of what I did, and now I'm just like the smallest things matter that I do in the ring.
Oh, wow. So you mentioned Japan, someplace I want to go, someplace Joakim wants to go as well. How did you end up there, first of all? And what was the experience like? Because I've heard people talk about how wrestling in Japan is like how they treat football here. Like it's such well respected, it's beloved over there.
Yeah. So it is so crazy to see how it's taken over there. Like it's treated like a legitimate sport, and the audience treats it like if they're watching a sport. So if you see boxing, they're kind of just watching, or MMA, like the crowd's not kind of rawing behind anything like that. And then they do respect kayfabe a lot more over there.
Nice.
In terms of like they don't come up to you and like they're not like nudge nudge wink wink, you know, like they're like really respectable, and like the crowd's just super nice. The way they train is intense. It's twice a day. They went running in the morning too. The way I got in actually was Fallout trainer Masha and me. We had our tryout match together, and they picked both of us. So they must have saw something in both of us for that reason. That was our first time ever working together. And I just remember like thinking like she has a really similar style to Japanese wrestling. I had no idea who this girl was. I hadn't met her in person, but I saw like
clips,
some of her stuff on the internet, and I was like, like I feel like we could be compatible in that sense. So we got to wrestle a 5-minute match, and they picked us for Japan for Marvelous.
Nice. I know how intense it is over there. You spoke a little bit about it, like them training twice a day.
Yeah.
And they hit over there. What did you learn about yourself going over there?
I learned how resilient I was. Over there, I had come in heavier than I was like a couple months, because I had seen a couple girls get injured from the training aspect of that. Training twice a week, like it's a huge toll on your body. So I kind of put on 10 pounds of size just so I wouldn't be fragile. And I didn't realize how like much my body would like last. Like literally like every day it was like me and Masha were like taping ourselves somewhere. Like we were taping ourselves somewhere, like, okay, like it's my ankle this week, or all right, my shoulder is acting up this week. And we didn't ever think of like, oh, like we might get injured here. It was just more of like, I got to push through this pain this week, and I'll focus on what's going on the week after that. It wasn't like we were expecting an injury. We were kind of just like, if I take care of it now, like it'll eventually heal itself. And I didn't think I would ever be someone like that. Like, you watch all these like shows where people are training and like pushing through to get to their dreams, and like they're always inspirational, you know. You're always like, oh man, like that's a good character, like that's something like I could never do that. And like actually putting in that work and being in that environment of like, my only job here is to train and be a wrestler, it just like changes the way you see training and you see diet and you see like studying ring work.
Wow, that's intense. All right, we got a little deep on that one.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
It was deep. It was deep, and I was just like, "Yo, I feel this. I feel you." Like, I'm gonna start calling you Xena now. You sound real badass, like Lucy Lawless Xena. I'm talking about. I don't know if you know what that is. I might be too old.
I feel like I know what it is just for the fact that like Ashley's watched it. Is it like Disney Channel?
Nah. I'm gonna send you an email with the link of Xena. Okay. We're gonna be good. We're gonna be good on this. But
got it.
If you ever need a new gimmick, Xena, the warrior princess. I'm telling you, fucks with it. But for a quick, so I'm gonna get to Joe King, because Joe King's over there silent.
I know.
Let's talk about you mentioned comic books. Are you a comic book reader?
I am a comic book reader. I used to just like Google whatever I could and read like the little synopsis of them. And now that I have like my own house and like I have an actual job, I can buy things. I'm like working on.
I know that feeling.
Yeah, it's like, oh, I'm an adult, so I'm gonna buy comic books. Yeah, that's what I always spend money on.
I buy the expensive fabric softener now. I couldn't do that when I was younger. But is there any comic book heroes, any comic book, heroines that you really like, or that you somewhat pull from in your current like gimmick right now, or is there anything else where you pull from to get your gimmick right?
Yeah, so I pulled the original gimmick of the alien from Starfire, and then kind of whenever I do, now that I'm like trying to work on like cutting more promos and stuff, I kind of pull from like the villains, which is weird because I am a hero character, but I just like the way villains kind of deliver their train of thought, like the way they back up their ideas. I've been like looking into that more, and I'm like, oh wait, actually, like they make more sense when they discuss things, because a lot of my favorite things about villains is that they're justified.
Yes,
you can hate someone, but at the end of the day, like you can see their point of view. Like, I don't know, man. Like, I'd be there too if that happened to me. Like, I'm just saying.
Like, we can never argue that Thanos was wrong.
Yeah, like he proved his point.
There needs to be balance in the world.
What would happen this year, like the year before, like
exactly. But yeah, like okay, but joking. What did you see in her and her sister to put the tag titles on them? Because they're representing like a very popular division now. Because tag team wrestling is very popular nowadays, and the fact that you guys are beating up on dudes and women,
yeah. Pretty rough on the body, but thank you.
Man, I'll never forget. Just I was talking to the gift god, Okai, and he was like, "Yo, they're dope." This was before I've ever even come across them. And then I went up to do commentary for Wrestlers Lab, and they did a crossover show with Liv Prob. And the crowd was just nuts for them. The crowd was insane for Ashley and Delmi. And they're tough as nails, man. Yeah, I always say, if you want something done right, you get a sister or a proud Latina, and it's going to get done. Her run, she kind of, because companies have kind of fell off with everything going on, the movement, the pandemic, or whatever the case may be. But her run as one of the boys, Delmi, was dope. Like, she was hanging in there doing things just like, oh my, she really is an ass kicker. And now we're getting to the core of it. She's a a Thanos fan. I'm gonna say she agrees with Killmonger's ideology. Like, she's badass is in there, even though you're heroes. She's can be like what's his name? Oh my God, from The Boys, the blonde guy.
I know who you're talking about. I still haven't watched it yet, though, but I know who you're talking about.
Oh my goodness! But yeah, just the toughness, just the grittiness. The way they hung in, like I had always thought about Crown and Tag Team Champions, and a year before the title got put on them, I had a conversation with Tasha, and she was like, "So, what'd you think of the Seastars?" And I was like, "I think I'm gonna go with them for tag champ." And it was just like, this is right before WCW, so this is like March of 2019. And yeah, it was just like, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it. They're incredible, and the way they hung in there with Santana and Ortiz, and the way, like, I felt justified in having that idea that I'm gonna go with them when Santana, we're gonna get a little deep here. They switched the finish. But I was just like, it was incredible.
Can you explain that? Can you go in a little detail on the switch of the finish?
So originally I was gonna have, Santana Ortiz up so that they can have a nice send off, and I was like, they were cool with it, but as how crazy things get for show days. So when they hit the street sweeper, I'm in my head like, all right, that's it, 1, 2, and then when Delmi kicked out, right?
I didn't do nothing.
No.
I didn't do.
When the kick out happened, right? When the kick out happened,
yes,
I was shocked because I was like, that was supposed to be it. And Santana's climbing up the rope, and my jaw is dropped because I'm like, and he looks at me, and the crowd is paying attention to the action. He's looking at me, and he gives me the wink, and I'm just like, yeah. So when they won, I was just like, yep, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna surprise them, and then that's what happened at the next show. Like, Crown, they went over. They had a killer match with Masha and Violet, and then they did the damn thing with the Ducks, and
that was crazy.
I'm super proud of them. They're incredible. Like it's funny because I have my 8-year-old nephew. He doesn't call his sister her name. He calls her Seastar.
Oh,
he calls her Seastar. Yeah, he's on the spectrum. So like, but he's never called her by her name. He's like, Seastar, come, and he just wants to be around her.
Real.
Yeah, see, so it was a bunch of factors, but the fact that they are as tough as they are, with the lack of size that they have, because there are women workers like Masha's a beast, she's solid, like that seem to have physically a bigger presence, but their heart is undeniable.
Yeah, I always forget how like short Masha is. Every time I see her, I'm like, oh my God. Yeah, wow. She always gets mad. She's like, shut up. And I'm like, okay, yeah, but congrats to you, because geez.
Yeah, she's tough. She the first session at the school, she had Mike Lost sweating. And I'm like, Coach, you're looking kind of, you're all right. He's, yeah, I'm good. Just so long. And Mike was like, well, this is what's gonna happen. Oh man, but yeah, man, the long and short of it is just, they are as undeniable with talent, with spirit, with emotions, mentally, physically. Like they're just gifted all the way across the, and it was my honor just to have them represent our brand.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. I really appreciate that. I actually never heard what you thought of us, so
well,
you say it here and there, but I actually never knew like why you ended up choosing us for the titles.
It was just that's why it was the impression. Like I was in awe. Like I was like, oh my God. And you guys do that I don't even know if you remember that match, but it was just seeing the crowd go nuts for you. It's like, I gotta get these girls down here, and they're gonna do huge things for us.
Yeah, that's actually crazy because that match was like the first match that we had before Shimmer. We were getting brought up to Shimmer, and we had gotten a tag book. We hadn't tagged for a while. Ashley went on to do single stuff. I went on to get better at like single stuff, just so that way we could become better wrestlers and hopefully come back in as a tag. And that was literally one of our first tag bookings coming back in. We had worked with like Perry and Rip on like all these tag stuff, and like they were working with us for like months because we found out we were going to do Shimmer, and we were like, we we need to be ready. And so that was like the first show that we got to like be able to prepare for Shimmer and see how things would come together, and like if things were good or if things wouldn't stick. And like it was a lot of fun working with the Diamond Dogs.
You mentioned Shimmer, and a lot of people probably listening or watching probably don't know what Shimmer is, and you kind of made it sound like it's a mega important thing. Could you explain more about Shimmer and the history of Shimmer real quick?
Yeah, so Shimmer is like the mecca of women's wrestling promotions. Like it has done so much for so many women in the business, and it's been kind of like the stepping stone to hit, and like the checklist. Like this should be on your bucket list if you're a female wrestler to appear at Shimmer. Me and Ashley, from where we came from, like we had no, like zero insight of how to get into Shimmer or like how to like get booked for them. They had brought us in because they needed tag teams, and even then that didn't happen until we were 4 years into our like wrestling careers. So that just shows you how long it takes to like get on their radar.
Wow.
They bring people from like Australia, the UK, New Zealand to come in. It's literally like the PWG's version, but for women in a way, where it's like a weekend of wrestling, and they'll do 4 shows or 2 shows that weekend, all mixed in with like wrestling. And it was a lot of fun. We got to meet like a lot of important people. Mercedes Martinez we got to work with. We've gotten to work with cheerleader Melissa. We've got to work with Havoc, Nevaeh, Courtney Rush. So many like great people who have helped us become these women in the ring.
Nice. I feel like we forgot to talk about something. Where are you guys originally from?
Oh,
where?
So we're both from Rhode Island, me and Ashley, which is considered the ocean state. My dad is Salvadorian, and he was born in El Salvador, and my mom is Mexican, but she was born in Texas. So she's more like she herself is a second generation. My dad is first generation, or was from the country.
Are you fluent in Spanish?
My Spanish is like passable. Like when I'm at work, people will laugh at me because they know I'm like trying, but my Spanish is like I'm half. So like I'm half Spanish, half white. So I don't have like that perfect accent when I talk Spanish, but I can talk Spanish. I can read it. I can listen and understand. It's just whenever I speak, I don't have like the best Spanish accent with it. So it sounds like I'm an American.
I feel you there.
Yeah, like I sound American.
Wait, you've been on Impact, right?
Yes.
And you've been on AEW. You talked about Shimmer. You've been in Japan. Like you've done it. You're doing it right now.
Thanks.
But what's next for you? What you have any particular goals?
So part of wrestling is like the scary thing is like you can kind of say what you've done is like, hey, yeah, I've done this. And a lot of people would take that and they'd be satisfied and they'd say, hey, I've done this. For me, my mentality kind of goes into, oh my God, did I peak? Is that it? Did I hit all the boxes and those are the only boxes I'm going to hit? Right now I'm working on just like building my reputation on the indie circuit. So that way I have kind of like my work can speak for itself, because not everyone's going to watch the match with Santana and Ortiz. Not everyone's going to be able to watch the matches I've had at Shimmer. So the next match I have could be someone's first impression of me. And that's something you have to like be conscious of. I just want to like get my reps in around on the indies and like prove myself and like prove what I can do in the ring. Either as a singles, either with Ashley, just that right now. I'm not really looking to like settle down right away with a contract. eventually that would be my goal, but because I'm so young, I want to travel and I want to like get experience. I want to be able to wrestle anyone I can right now and just work with the best and work with the worst and work with someone who like could use my help in the ring or someone who could help me in the ring.
That's awesome, and I love how you said you don't want to settle down with a contract yet. You want to kind of see what's out there. So, let's say, for instance, a little girl comes up to you, not little, but you know,
Yeah.
like, hey, I want to wrestle. What tips do you got for me?
So first of all, I would probably say don't. If I had a daughter, I'm thinking about it like, oh.
Why?
No.
Why? Hold on. We can't move on from that. Why?
Just because it's so hard to just like protect someone in this business. Like, unless you're with them 24/7, like, it just feels like such a scary place to send someone out into and be like, all right, learn a headlock. And like, literally the amount of stuff that can like drag you down between like just like clicks and like the negativity that comes around. I mean, like everyone's has a Twitter here, so like you see like just like the most basic things can like get to a person, and unless you have like thick skin, then pro wrestling can be like a really like scary place to try to break into. If someone did come up to me and they were dead set on becoming a wrestler, especially if they were a female, I would say find a really good school and then see who has come out of that school. Mm-hmm. So for New England Pro Wrestling Academy, we have women like Davey, and right now she is doing like the most at taking care of the girls who are coming out around there and like making sure there's like no guys messing around with them, making sure they're safe in a locker room, making sure they feel good at practice and they're not feeling uncomfortable at all in any way. And then for XWA right now, we have girls like Little Mean Kathleen. She's coming out from over there and from Top Rope. And she has like her friends who like take care of her and like they're like there for her. They have her back. They're great guys. I've worked with them my entire career. Like I've shared locker rooms with them, so I know they're like gonna take care of her. But there's just little things like that where like you want to research whatever school you're going to and make sure that the environment's safe. And if it is safe, what have the people who have come out of there said about it? Personally, I didn't have a school that I was like based out of and I came up out of my entire career. I trained in a barn when I started off. I had a really good trainer who was trained himself. But once he kind of broke out of the business, I had to go to all these different schools and like get a little bit from everywhere. But I never was a part of a school after that because I just kind of like was weary of trusting people and trusting the wrong people. I would say I had more mentors after that. One of my mentors is Perry Von Vicious, and he's a super just straight up nice guy. Would never like take advantage of anyone. If I have something wrong in a match, I know he'll tell me. He won't just like let it slide over or tell me what I want to hear because of what I've accomplished now. I could have a contract right now and he would still tell me, hey, your strikes look bad here. And I can trust him for that. And so I would just say that for a female.
Nah, it's rough. Sounds rough and scary at the same time.
It's like high school, but yeah, you know, but I think that's also everywhere. That could be any business. I just happen to choose wrestling to decide to give my life to. So
how do you deal with the critics on Twitter? Because it gets pretty nasty on there.
Yeah,
like,
so I'm actually pretty fortunate. I haven't gotten too much hate on Twitter. And when I did Impact, honestly, I was like, Rip, my boyfriend, like had to take my phone away because I was waiting for it. Like I was like, all right, I know it's TV. Like I know all the people who write mean comments come from places that do TV. So I was literally on my phone, like waiting for it, just like trying to like get it over with. And he like had to take my phone away. He's like, you know, you had a good match. Like, you know, everyone who worked with you was like impressed with you. So just don't take that experience away from yourself. And I guess from that, I have to learn that portion versus when I did Dark, I noticed on YouTube there was like 4 comments that were kind of like negative. And so I kind of used what he had told me of like, if you know the people who worked with you were happy, if you know the people who were working on the product itself were impressed, why are you going to ruin that experience because of what someone said to you on the internet, like behind a keyboard? Like, you know how it was. They don't know how it was. Like, and you know how you felt with yourself after it. So obviously, like, take that instead of someone who might just be saying that because they had a bad day, or maybe they need a punching bag that day. Like, you don't know what they're going through at the end of the day. I also have like learned pretty early on not to attack fans because you don't know what they're going through. Maybe they just said something. Like, I know sometimes I'll see something bad and I'll be like, oh, that was bad. But I'm not going to comment on it. And I'm not going to like discourage anyone if they're not coming to me for advice. But not everyone has that filter, unfortunately.
Yeah, it seems hard for you guys. Like, you're constantly getting attacked for like no reason. But then I think I read something. A lot of times you focus on that one negative comment because it's a negative comment. But there's like 100 like positive comments, but you're stuck on that one negative comment.
Yes, that's how it'll always be. And like, I can say this every day, like, yeah, like the negative comments don't get to me, but I'll be like trying to sleep in the middle of the night. It's like that comment pops into my head. Like, God damn. Like, as long as you just keep reminding yourself, because it's gonna be a work in progress. Like, you're never just gonna have thick skin, but as long as you keep reminding yourself, like, that's the real work, and eventually it'll just all settle in, and you'll be all set.
Yeah, that's pretty. That's the truth. That's the truth. Joakim, before we head out, you have any questions for Delmi?
Top 3 matches of all time.
Top 3. I'd have to say my match I just had with Davian a few Sundays ago at WWR Plus.
By the way, good promo for that one.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Santana and Ortiz, the tag match that definitely popped us off with that. And then the match at Shimmer where we won the tag titles.
Pretty badass.
Thank you.
But this Saturday, what are you doing?
Defending the titles. Finally, defending the Battle Club Pro tag titles.
Against who?
Against the pre-show. Against the main event.
Yes, Seastars versus main event. So we have the ocean versus the land. Did I do that right? Did I promote that right? Because you have the lion, then you have like, I was trying to go for something. That might have worked.
It's more like the circus versus the aquarium.
There you go.
There you go.
Got it. That is perfect. I am super excited about that match.
Thank you. We're super excited to wrestle those guys finally.
Yeah, they're on a different level of talent. I know them personally, and I've seen their work ethic, and it's just absolutely amazing. And that's probably going to be one of the top matches of the night. You two guys wrestling. But where can people find you on social media? Please drop the social medias real quick.
Yeah, I'm pretty easy to find. It's just DELMIEXO, and that's for Instagram and Twitter.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it was another episode of Jobbertears podcast. Powered Talk to Us interview. We had Joakim Morales of Battle Club Pro. Joakim, drop your social media handles, please, before we go.
Yeah, same as Delmi. It's just my first name, Joakim Morales, on everything. Battle Club Pro on everything.
Okay. Yes, and Delmi, thank you so much for like taking time out your extremely busy schedule to talk to me and Joakim.
Thank you so much for having me on the podcast. It was a great time.
All right. Peace.